Welcome back to Keeping BZ, the show where two friends, Zach and Brandon, look at another video game that one wants to show the other. I'm Brandon, joined by Zach, and this is Sonic Epoch. Sonic Epoch Advance, which it's called that because this game has a bit of a history that I'll go into as we get into it. But as you can tell, for those of you that are familiar with the Sonic franchise, due to the art style on the title screen, this is based off of the old Sonic cartoon from the early 90s, often called Sonic SatAM or SatAM. And this is one of the oldest Sonic fan games that exists, or at least one of the oldest ones that was really finished and had a lot of ambition poured into it. I used to call this game when I was a kid Sonic Epoch, because I for some reason that's how my brain interpreted the title. But then I grew up, and then I saw Epoch, and I was like, oh, okay. So this has a very strange, very fanficky story that I'm interested to show Zach. And we'll show off more of the game as we get into it. So if you're a fan of the Sonic SatAM, hopefully you'll get something out of this.
I'm a fan of SatAM, so I'm interested to see what this game plans to do with it.
So Dr. Robotnik and his evil, conniving lackey Snively that also hates him have some sort of new evil plan coming together. Oh wow, nothing could possibly go wrong here.
Robotnik does look like the kind of guy who would ignore safety regulations.
I think he did a few times in the show, because he just wanted to catch that hedgehog! And the game is a platformer with terrible screen crunch. Thankfully, unlike the original Sonic the Hedgehog video games, there's no ring system. You just have a big health bar that is pretty forgiving. So that we just got a bubble shield, just like in Sonic 3, so we can equip that.
Now I see why it's called Advance. It's screen crunch like it's an advanced game.
Yep. So the reason why it's called Advance, Zach, is actually this is a remake of Sonic Epoch. Sonic Epoch was originally a fan game in development for Windows 3.1. So if you want to play the original builds of Sonic Epoch, you'd have to play them on a DOS-box emulator.
I didn't expect it to be that old.
So that's how old this damn game is. You would have to play it on Windows 3.1 in the original versions. So this is basically the DOS version was never finished. If you play it, there's a lot of content in it, but there's no ending. Not only did they remake the game on an engine made for a Game Boy Advance, but it also, is actually a full finished product now that very much changes the story from the original DOS version as well. Maybe we'll take a look at the DOS version one day. I don't know. For now, we're just going to look at the original Game Boy Advance, well, the better improved Game Boy Advance remake. So we just collected some key cards because this is Doom, so we're going to unlock all the doors to get through to the next area. Now we have a boss. Zach might recognize this boss from the show. It's the big...
yeah, the thing he races, right?
No, this is when they were trapped in the sewers when they're traveling to that underground city that runs off of that crystal power source. And they were facing these giant rats with these electric whiptails.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, very much tries to replicate the vibe of the Genesis games while still trying to be SatAM, which is interesting. Because originally, Zach, there was plans to make a video game based off of SatAM back in the Sega Saturn days, to the point where there was even a tech demo developed that you can find pictures, like little video clips of online. It was actually going to be a Sonic stealth game.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know how that would have went, but visually it looked very much like SatAM. It looked pretty cool.
Somehow Sally is alive.
Somehow Sally is alive.
Somehow
Yes.
Palpatine returned.
You might have noticed that her portrait changed in the top left. Yeah.
I don't know why that made me laugh. Yeah, and after you mentioned that this was made with an engine to make Game Boy Advance games, I can totally see it. A lot of this does look like a low budget, maybe not rushed, but it definitely does look like a licensed game on GBA.
You probably can't tell from the way the sprite looks, Zach, but this is her with a gun in her mouth.
Yep. Yeah.
So, here's where things go off the rails pretty hard.
Yep. When you said this was a cringe fan game made way back in the day, my first thought was, yeah, it's gonna get edgy, isn't it?
It reminds me very much of Blaze Hedgehog's old demo for his fan game Sonic the Fated Hour, which begins with a monster breaking into the house Sonic and Tails live in and slaughtering Tails in epic gory detail. And Sonic goes to investigate who killed Tails. But yes, basically, big time skip. Many years later, everybody's adults now. Sally has lost all hope without Sonic. Most of the other freedom fighters are either dead or roboticized. And Tails has turned into a snarky, back-talking teenager.
I'm so tired of the concept that everyone thinks that in order to make the series they loved as a kid more mature, they just gotta add swearing and a bunch of death and gore.
Yeah. Also, I love how the game glitches out while it's loading the next level. It always glitches out. All the sound and music sound effects like drag out, and then it cuts to the next level.
I like how happy Sally's face is in the bottom left corner, though.
Yeah, it's clearly like based off of her sprite from when she was younger. So I don't know why they didn't change that, but yeah, who knows? Maybe time or whatever. So yeah, Sally, she can climb onto ledges when you jump on them, and she has a gun. And she can also equip shields like Sonic does. But she doesn't have the shield abilities like Sonic can. Yeah, these are like, I don't know, mutant porcupines or something. I don't even know what the hell these enemies are.
I was thinking they were regular hedgehogs, but I guess they could be porcupines too.
Maybe, but in this world, why would there be regular animals?
I don't know. Why did Tails say Jesus fucking Christ? Is he a Christian? Or is it at the very least does Christianity exists in this universe?
I mean, at the very least, you know, there was that episode of the first season, which wasn't a good episode, but, you know, the one where they find dinosaurs. And that one wasn't very...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, like, it wasn't a good episode, but at the same exact time, it's like, well, I mean, hey, I guess some animals that are not fully sentient exist. Okay, then we got the second key card so we can keep going. Ah, damn it. There we go. God, that's so awkward, that spring. Sends you just into the ceiling and down. Oh, God.
So do we have edgy, gory death animations in this game?
Not really. I mean, I'll be honest, Zach, when I played this as a kid, as you might expect, and you won't be shocked by this, I was thoroughly engrossed to see where the story was going to go. Because at that point, I'd seen all of SatAM, and this game actually uses a lot of continuity from SatAM, and has a lot of, like, returning characters in this, like... Because, you know, like, the setup is, it's this dark, even darker future world where everything's much worse, and Robotnik fully took over everything. So there's a lot of neat little touches in the story of, here's what happened to this character, and here's where this character ended up, but it's written, you know, in a very, like, early 2000s edgy sort of way. There was also, like, something that blew my mind as a kid was when I saw this Newgrounds animation that was like, this person was going to make this full SatAM movie in Flash that was going to remake it in this very detailed, darker art style. And it was, of course, you know, super dark looking and gory and crap. And, I mean, honestly, the art in it is pretty good. Like, even now, I think it holds up. Like the art, but what it's actually conveying is the most super edgy 2000s like reimagining of something you can think of. Was that just something that defined our childhood in the 2000s in particular? Was that everybody was making their own dark, edgy versions of things they grew up with?
I know Newgrounds definitely had an obsession with a lot of gore comedy, or at the very least the Newgrounds stuff I found. A lot of people have fond memories of Newgrounds. I really don't, outside of Super Mario Bros. Z. Although even that one involves Metal Sonic murdering basically every Sonic character except Sonic and Shadow, so...
Yep, there's always death, so much death. Trying to think of other Sonic, super dark Sonic things I saw. What was it? There was, I mean, there was Sonic's Quest for Power, which for like a lot of Newgrounds Sonic Flash animations was just trying to be DBZ, but like push the DBZ influences of Sonic as far as they could possibly go, and it was just ridiculously overproduced with just crazy on-screen effects and everything, and choreography that was so fast you could barely tell what was ever going on. I mean, it's still impressive for what it is, like what they were able to pull off, just like the ridiculous amount of layers they put into Adobe Flash, but, you know, I don't think if I looked back on most of the stuff I watched in Newgrounds again, I'd be like, wow, this is so great even now. Oh gosh, how could I forget, Sonic the Swordsman was like a big inspiration to me back in the day for its storytelling, which has Robotnik teaming up with Magneto from X-Men to kill all of the heroes. So Sonic teams up with Sparkster, and Sparkster's also there, and Wolverine and a couple other characters to start a bloody war against all these different villains from these different worlds. And I just liked it because the animations of Sonic with the sword were actually pretty decent sprite edits of the Sonic 3 sprite.
I think I remember you showing that to me, but that was high school, so I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah. I've become a total wasted shell of the youthful princess you once loved.
Now that I think about it, this game earlier did also have Sonic say slam, jam, and scram. And then later on also tried to have Sally kill herself.
Well, slam, jam, and scram would be accurate to the way he talked in SatAM.
It would be. But it's always such a weird thing about fan projects, especially when they're made by either teenagers or even adults, but it's about a kid's property. They feel like in order to make it more age appropriate, they gotta add random bullshit, even though they liked it without that random bullshit.
Right.
But I don't know. It's always got to be a weird combination of extremely childish, but also trying way too hard to be adult.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's just like a random screenshot from one of the Archie comics. From the Ken Penders era.
I was actually just about to ask if that was Ken Penders.
I don't think that was his art, but that might be... I'm trying to think of some of the artists that worked on the Archie comics, but... Okay, so what we're looking at right now, this blue mass of nothing, this is supposed to be what happened to Nuthole, like their original home. That Robotnik destroyed all of it. And in this alternate future where Sonic has been dead for years, I guess Snively ended up overthrowing Robotnik, but I guess that's because Sonic wasn't here to take him out at the end of Doomsday. But like, yeah, now he's grown back his hair and stuff, but...
Would you say you're someone that likes the darker side of Sonic? Something more along the lines of, like, what Sonic Adventure 2 tried to do, or some of the stuff in SatAM, and... Well, I know you don't like the stuff in Lost World.
I mean, I'm trying to think, because I don't think necessarily any version of Sonic has touched, like, what I would consider to be the definitive, here's what Sonic should be, because I feel like there's episodes of Season 1 of SatAM that kind of hit it, where I actually like the oppressive nature of Robotnik ruling everything. I like SatAM's darker tone, but I, you know, obviously not to this, the level that this game goes, but I like what that show does with it, and I like Robotnik's, how Robotnik really has a presence in that show, but I also like that show has good comedy. Like, I think the things we were laughing at most when we watched SatAM together was the banter between Sonic and Sally. I think, for whatever reason, just kind of like Mulder and Scully and X-Files, no matter how bad the episode was, usually those two, when they would be bickering amongst each other, would have some good wit, like, between the two of them that really still holds up pretty well writing-wise. And then when the show actually tries to be funny with Antoine D. Charlotte, he sucks, and he's not funny at all, and he mostly just exists to cause conflict to happen in the show because he's not good at anything.
I hate Antoine.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into a 10-minute rant, although I could probably rant 10 hours about Antoine. I don't want to go into a 10-minute rant, but I hate Antoine. He's quite possibly one of the worst characters I've ever seen in fiction. I despise him.
Yeah, he's a stereotype of a race of people that on top of it is also just bad comic relief that exists purely, like I said, just to... Because the thing we noticed watching season 1 of SatAM especially is that many of the plots in the episodes would only happen because Antoine tripped on something. And like, otherwise, the characters are all pretty competent on their own. Sonic, obviously, he's impatient, but he has Sally to pull him back. Sally is intelligent and is able to plan out and give people things to do. Rotor's the good tech guy. Bunny has her strength. Like, they all are pretty competent people, and they could probably get stuff done. And then Antoine falls into a conveyor belt or trips over a trap, and then all of a sudden, conflict. Robotnik's apparently not enough. They need their own people to be... And I understand, like... They bring Antoine along because just like everybody else in their group, his family was also taken and roboticized, so they feel they owe it to him to be part of their group, but he just always comes off as a detriment. And especially in season 2, when they focus on him and give him entire episodes devoted to him that are just one-off comedy bits, which apparently were mandated by ABC. That the show couldn't be all the episodes they wanted. They needed also just these short comic relief episodes that were shorter and easier to air in succession with other stuff. It's all pretty bad. And then they introduced Dulcie the Dragon, who feels kind of out of place in the world of SatAM, but I like the concept of her as a character, and then all of her comedy is just terrible because it's like the same joke repeated over and over and over again. It's sad because I really like SatAM Season 2 for having an actual continuity-heavy ongoing storyline, but then Zach and I also noticed it's a stalemate. Like, there's wins and losses in a sense, but really nobody ever makes a good step until the final episode where Sonic wins. So it's bizarre, because ultimately I think I kind of prefer Season 1 in some ways, because I think some of those one-off episodes that stand on their own in that season are kind of just better on their own than needing to be part of a huge continuity. But still, I think you and I still enjoyed Season 2 overall, despite what it was. I think we still liked the characters and liked some of the stuff that happens in the stories.
It's been a long time. Going based off purely memory, I would say I prefer Season 1. I think Season 2 has some better episodes, but I think they're unfortunately balanced out by shit like episodes that focus on Antoine.
Also,
it's weird.
Also, just a quick note there, Tails makes the comment that something about how when they thought Sonic died, she thinks the way that Sonic survived was that he turned yellow to escape. And so he's like referencing Supersonic, but Supersonic wasn't even a thing in SatAM because the Chaos Emeralds didn't exist in SatAM. So I don't know why they're pulling that out here. Yep, he said the fuck word. Twice even. Come on!
Damn it, I missed it.
Could have at least died. Well, basically she said, I should have blown my brains out when I had the chance. I could have at least died thinking only of you, Sonic. Mondo, uncool, Sal!
Uncool!
Don't you ever talk about that way. Killing yourself may seem like taking an easy way out, but really all you did is screw everyone else over 1,000 times more. Think about it.
Sonic says, suicide's not cool.
Oh, God.
Special note, suicide itself is not funny, it's just in the context of this bullshit. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's so bizarre. I mean, even when I played it as a kid, I found dialogue like this and was like, what the hell is going on? But I still was like, wanted to know where the story was going.
Were you satisfied by the ending?
I mean, I like some of the reveals. Like, I'll just tell you, Zach, because we may not get to it in this video, but, Robotnik isn't what he seems. Basically, you get towards the end, and Sonic beats him up, and Robotnik reveals that, after he conquered the planet, he then, just to complete the process, roboticized himself. So, once you destroy him, once you beat him in a boss fight, he uses something to, like, blow off his skin and reveals he's all metallic underneath, and you fight basically metal Robotnik. Who is much more powerful.
Oh, that's actually kind of neat.
Yeah, and he has all kinds of gadgets and stuff, and he actually makes for a pretty tough final boss that I actually kind of dig. Because, I mean, that would make sense, ultimately, in this universe, that ultimately Robotnik would probably roboticize himself maybe at some point, either accidentally or eventually. Because, I don't know if you remember the two-parter Blast of the Past, but in that, Sonic actually accidentally pushes Robotnik into the roboticizer, and that's why his arm is metallic. So I guess he just completed the process. This was actually something they did in the Archie comics, too. There's an Archie comic where Robotnik's actually contacted by himself from the future and in an alternate timeline where he has been totally turned into a metallic, like, AI that purely just exists as, like, a big floating head. And it's in, like, a future where Sonic has locked him inside of, like, his own space station in space, and now Sonic lives in peace on Mobius with Sally and their kids. And yes, this was all written by Ken Penders. He really is interested in Sonic and Sally having kids and going into the histories of their children, which the second that Ian Flynn took over, I mean, he continued the Mobius 25 years later plotline, and he did some interesting stuff with it, but the most interesting stuff Ian did was when he was writing just the freedom fighters in the present day and their stuff. But oh yeah, when Ken was writing, it was, so 25 years from now, what's Knuckles' daughter going to prom look like? And it's just like, what? I mean, there's some decent stuff in there where it's like her dealing with Knuckles passing over the guardianship of the Master Emerald to her and her deciding if she really wants that or not, which I thought that was okay. Because, you know, that's a really isolating job. But, yeah, there's definitely a lot in there that just, eh. And no, these cutscenes are far from over, Zach. There was a lot of cutscenes. I think this game was primarily made for the cutscenes. I also liked in particular that before that Sally level we played, she states in the dialogue, I better go through the sewer system, and like she was naming off what the sewer system level is called to get to the place to go to here, and I'm like, yes, so we can have a level in a video game. It just felt kind of arbitrary. Well, like, I get it, though. Like, they have to go through something to get to where they need to go. It just,
I'm gonna be honest, this cutscene was going on for so long that I just started listening to you instead of reading all the dialogue.
Oh, I know. I'm trying to keep it on long enough so people can read if they're watching the video, but maybe I'm going a little too fast. Oh, we don't know what happened to Uncle Chuck. And I should at least say...
This is still going.
I should at least say that, you know, despite all of our bitching and everything about Sonic SatAM, but we did enjoy our time with the show when we watched it, and SatAM is the reason I got into Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, I was given a hand-me-down Genesis from my uncle with a copy of Sonic 2, and I played that a lot, but that game wasn't enough. It was finding the VHSs of this show at Blockbuster and watching and seeing the amazing backgrounds and the dark tone and the interesting world that really got me into Sonic. Like, the first Sonic fan sites I really went to was the Sonic SatAM fan sites. This world was the thing that got me into the character. So anything that I see in modern Sonic that sort of relates to this or references this, I always like. And I really do like Ian's run of Archie comics where he's building off the comics continuity, but it's still these characters at the end of the day. And I like the Freedom Fighters. I think they're fun, and I hope that they come back in some form someday. I like Sally a lot, but I would say my favorite Freedom Fighter, at least in SatAM, is probably Rotor. I like Rotor quite a bit. I just like how he's just this super chill dude that just acts as Sonic's buddy, and kind of in place of Tails, and he builds some cool stuff and helps them out. I really like the episode where Sonic and Tails go up to that weird spy satellite in the sky and try to shut it down, and Rotor's, he can't do too much, so Sonic's protecting him a lot of the time, but he is able to use his tech knowledge in a way that helps him out on that mission, even if that episode is just bizarre. Like, you can tell in season 1, every writer sort of had their idea for what this show was, and none of them were necessarily always in continuity with each other. Like, when they go up to that spy satellite in space, the robots on that ship look like they're from Star Wars, not from Sonic the Hedgehog. They have like weird tentacles coming out of them, and there's a part where they go into like a literal cantina with a bunch of robots playing instruments, which I don't see this Dr. Robotnik building robots that play instruments and create art. There's a pretty iconic panel of the early days of the Sonic Archie comics where Robotnik puts down a sign that says fun is outlawed, or fun is not allowed. The comics are their own interesting, fascinating creature that changed in so many ways over the course of 20 years. And more, actually, yeah, they went on nearly 30. Ah, yes. I think we only saw one real Freedom Fighter group in SatAM, which is, of course, that Wolfpack tribe they visited in Season 2. And there was a couple other Freedom Fighter groups we see join them for the fight at the end of Doomsday, but they have no lines of dialogue and they get roboticized. So it's just like, yay. Apparently, I think they were planning to have more episodes where they traveled to see more Freedom Fighters, but that got replaced with the Ant 1 comedy episodes. Yes, this game has a world map.
Sorry, yeah, I saw. Sorry, I was laughing at the chapter name.
What was it called? I didn't catch it because I was talking.
Something like the brunt of depression and act of aggression.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, you remember the classic SatAM episode, The Brunt of Oppression. If all the SatAM episodes, there were a few that didn't do this gimmick, but the majority of SatAM episodes were just Sonic and then an adjective or another word. Sonic Boom, Sonic Conservation, Hooked on Sonics. And then, of course, in Season 2, they got, Droodhenge, the Doomsday Project. But, yeah, not this edgy stuff. I'm happy this game... I am happy this game exists. I'm happy that someone actually went to the trouble of actually finishing this whole thing, even if it's just filled with issues, as you can probably see by just how enemies run from off-screen so fast that you just take a hit.
That's just true to Sonic in general, in my opinion.
Well, okay. I think enemy placement was slightly better. There was a screen crunch in the Genesis games. Zach, I will say,
that's true.
If you ever get a chance to play Sonic Origins, the remastered collection of the Genesis games, putting those games in widescreen actually fixes a lot.
Obviously, the actual Sonic Genesis games control better than this, of course.
God damn it. Ah, Thankfully, there are checkpoints. What time are we looking at, Zach?
35 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm going to finish this level and we're going to stop. Because I figured
Okay.
a couple levels and that long-ass cutscene was probably a good estimation of you seeing what this game is. If you are actually interested in finishing this game to the end and seeing how the full story plays out of dark alternate future SatAM, written clearly by like fans, literally Sonic Epoch has its own website. You just type in Sonic Epoch on Google and you'll find like the website that has both an entire history of the making of this game, showing like all the different versions of the DOS box version to the Game Boy Advance final version. And you can also download every single version of the game from beta to final and try them out if you want, as well as just a bunch of notes on just, how they were put together. So yeah, I mean, it's worth looking into. It's like I said, it's one of the first Sonic games. It's a very interesting piece of the history of the franchise in terms of fan games. Because there isn't a ton of games specifically based off of SatAM. I think there's like a visual novel. And then, of course, most recently and most famously, there's the SatAM RPG series that's been releasing every year on Sage, getting like a new chapter. And Zach, I think you played just the first one of those, right?
Yeah, just the first one. Actually, I don't even know if I finished the first one, to be fair. That
series does such a better job at capturing the tone and the feel of the original cartoon. I think I would really recommend when you get the chance playing through the rest of the chapters. I don't just like the RPG just because of it capturing the tone pretty well. I think the gameplay, the Mario, basically it plays kind of like the Mario and Luigi games, where you have a lot of, there's the battle system is you want to hit buttons at the right time to do more damage in your attacks, and characters all have different special moves that they can do that are good for different reasons to take out the enemies. And the story and the stuff, it actually adds to the lore, because there's actually, in the second chapter, it actually goes into the history of SatAM, and specifically, it tries to create lore for how this specific world of Mobius was created. And it makes up like this lore involving a war between techno wizards and mankind, and also actual magic and all kinds of stuff, which actually which sounds out there, but it actually explains a lot of things about SatAM's world, like where Lazar the Wizard came from. Like from that one episode where Robotnik's trying to capture that wizard for his special powers. It actually explains a lot, and I really like the Sonic RPG series. I highly recommend checking it out. If you just search Sonic SatAM RPG, you should be able to find it. It also has its own Discord. So yeah, check that out if you want a really good Sonic SatAM fan game that actually is continuing the heart of the show in a way that's much less edgy than this. Sonic Epoch is what it is of its time, and it's pretty cringy, and the gameplay sucks, but I kind of enjoy it for just the weird thing that it is and the fact that it was actually finished. So, any final thoughts, Zach?
Not really, except this reminds me that I should eventually show you some edgy Pokemon fan games.
Oh, absolutely.
Not that I know any, because I've never really played any, but I heard they definitely exist.
I mean, like any games you grew up with or played either through fan projects or official that were edgy is always great stuff to look back on.
Yeah, I never really played fan games, unfortunately. I should have done more of that, but I just never did. I never really bothered to look for it. I was always interested in making my own stuff, but like after watching something like this, like it doesn't look great, but at the same time, I feel like I missed out by not playing things like these.
No, I played like every Sonic fan game I could get a hold of, especially anything that was on Sonic Fan Games HQ, which was a real website that compiled basically everything from like the late 90s to modern times, and I found so much good stuff on there. Sonic Fan Games HQ is still around, and they continue to promote modern fan game projects. So yeah, give them a look. And that's going to do it for this installment of Keeping BZ. If you have suggestions for other Sonic fan games you think we should try out, or just other games in general, absolutely, yeah, hit us up. And I think that's...
I'll take some Pokemon fan game recommendations, too.
And I think that's a great place to end it. That's Sonic Epoch. Take care. And juice it loose. And let's slide Clyde and whatever Sonic says in that show.